We're just checking in with you from the Radford Public Library to give you a new book recommendation, and that recommendation is for the newest release by Anne Napolitano, her third novel, titled Dear Edward. It came out in January of 2020. It's pretty tough reading in places because it's about a young boy who loses his parents and his older brother in a plane crash. So he and his family are on a plane that crashes, and he ends up being the sole survivor of that plane crash. And he's taken in by his mother's sister and her husband. So his aunt and uncle take him in, and it's kind of a saving grace for them because they're in a very rocky place in their marriage. And his neighbor, or his aunt and uncle's neighbors, take an immediate liking, of course, to Dear Edward, who really is one of the dearest boys you'll ever read about. And the daughter in that family, the neighbor's daughter, is a little girl named Shay, and they become such great friends. And so part of the story that's so uplifting is the relationship the two of them have with each other. She likens him to Harry Potter, because like Harry Potter, he has lost his parents tragically, and because like Harry Potter, he has been taken in by his aunt and uncle, and also because like Harry Potter, he has this remarkable scar from the accident. And last but not least, like Harry Potter, he may have his own kind of superpowers or strengths or abilities that aren't even known to him, and primarily I think that's just surviving in the wake of so much loss and survivor's guilt too. So it's a beautiful story. It's told in such a gorgeous way. It is told in kind of two separately distinct timelines in which, for one, you learn about Edward and how he's recovering both physically and psychologically from the accident, and then the other timeline is a kind of an hourly countdown of the plane crash and what went wrong. And that's a really tough aspect of the story as well, because you, the reader, get quite attached to the folks on the plane. There's over, I think, 191 passengers, so of course you don't meet all of them, but there are point characters that you become very familiar with, and it's really hard that you know what their demise will ultimately be. But the story comes back around in a very interesting way, which is that in many cases Edward is once again connected to those passengers by their surviving relatives, friends, family. So it's a really beautiful story. I saw in one review that it was likened to The Room by Emma Donoghue, which I found to be really tough to read and couldn't bring myself to watch. But in many of the same ways, it's a story about fortitude and determination and just surviving. And so it's quite uplifting, even though once again the subject is quite harrowing and really tough in places. So I highly recommend it. I did a little bit of looking about the author and learned that she was personally very shaken by the true event of a sole surviving boy in a plane crash. I think that plane was going from South Africa to London, and he was a young boy who survived, and he did lose his family. And so apparently she spent the next 8 years, that crash happened in 2010, and she spent the next 8 years writing this fictionalized account that takes place in America. So obviously it was a story she needed to get out, and after reading it I could see why. It's really beautiful. So I hope you'll check it out. Again, it's Dear Edward. It's written by Anne Napolitano, and we'll give you another book recommendation soon. Thanks for listening.